So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Avatar. So let's start the series. He had slumbered for 4 millennia, during which the world transformed, ninjas vanished, benders appeared, yet peace remained intact. If not, would he awaken or would he not? Chie was a cheerful and hyperactive girl who kept smiling even though the world had been at war for a century. While it was admirable, there were times she simply wanted someone to comprehend her sadness. Being able to read people's auras was a mixed blessing. She could tell how others felt, except when it impacted her. The reality was that her parents were gone, her siblings had been harsh and often tormented her, and her best friend was a murderous, almost deranged firebender princess. A few years back, she found a cave that allowed her to be alone without anyone noticing. This was strange, but it suited her just fine. She was unaware that today would be different. Stupid sisters, it's not my fault they were no fun. I can't make any friends because they chase them away. Forget about having a boyfriend. Why me? The ground of the cave unexpectedly gave way under her, causing her to drop down and cry out ow. She massages her itching backside and glances about, pondering, oh, I wonder how old this place is. It looks like the hallway of a really old mansion. While she strolls through the corridor, she sees photographs of many cheerful women and children beaming smiles, some of whom evoke a sense of familiarity in here. I wish I could be that happy. I wonder who they are, she says. After what seems like hours of walking, she arrives at a large golden door, which she opens to enter. The walls are adorned with images of conflicts unknown to her, colossal creatures and individuals possessing extraordinary abilities seemingly rivaling those of the Avatar. Which kind of place is this? She wonders to herself as she sees a bed that looks very nice. With curiosity, she glances at it and finds a man who seems to be slightly older than herself sleeping in it. Strange, this place seemed buried and yet you're breathing. Who are you? She makes the decision to rouse him, but it proves to be more challenging than she anticipated. Just as she's on the verge of surrendering, she notices an unusual seal on his abdomen and extends her hand to feel it. Pardon. As she feels a sharp prick and falls back on her butt again, she asks. She gazes at the seal, which is taking in the blood and igniting. The man then opens his eyes and sits up, exclaiming, "Oh, damn it. Why do I feel like I overslept?" He becomes aware of his company and swivels around to confront the girl on the ground, who looks astonished. "Oh, he's sorry to bother you, but do you happen to know if there's a war going on?" Tale makes a frowning expression at the man. Ja seat ungef her 100 jarin sak nerdo. Tilly's confusion grows. "Oh, maybe it's the seal I discovered on you. I found you here asleep and tried to wake you, but you didn't respond until that seal cut me and took my blood. Then it burned and you woke up." Nerdu frowns. "Crap, that implies someone schemed this, someone who was aware of me." Tel gets up and positions herself next to him. Quick question, who are you and what are you saying?" Nerdu looks up. "Sorry, you're right. I'm Nerdo Ojimak Namikazi Shinju, nice to meet you." Tylee's gaze widens. Shinju. Like the deity who has been asleep for 4 millennia. The deity representing nature and peace. Nerdu grins. 4,000 years ho? That's 3,000 more than God. Nice, yeah, that's me. And who are you? She blinks several times before replying, I'm Tylee. Nice to meet you, Tylee. How did you get here? Ich woon mit meinen Squestern auf der Insel, aber manchmal brauch ich Zeit für mich nachzudenken, also gehe ich in dies helle die anscheinend nimmen kennt. Dan ist der Boden eingebrochen und ich heb die Bilder in der Hall bewundert und dich gefunden, strahlt Nerdu. Mein Family. Ich heb 1000 Jahre gelebt und hat in dieser Zeit 10 Frauen und viel Liebhaber. Ein große Family, genau so wie ich es immer wollt mein Kindheitstraum. You're looking lonely and unappreciated. Do you want to share more about it? With tears in her eyes and her gaze directed downwards, she asks. Perched on the edge of the bed, she recounts her life thus far to him, including details about her family and her friend Azula. Although you seem happy, your life hasn't been joyful. It reminds me of my childhood. Were you saying you were admiring the weapons displayed on the walls here? Nerdu inquires while she listens and acquires knowledge. Yeah, I've always loved learning about weapons, the more exotic the better. But I've never seen anything like these, she says with a smirk. Hattest du nie das Bedürfnis, Weejan youth lossestren. She tilts her head and nods, feeling embarrassed. Nerdu chuckles. Hey Tilly, you don't happen to know the names Tenten and Rock Lee, do you? She chuckles and reflects. The names sound familiar, but I can't recall. They were good friends during my childhood. I think you might be their descendant. How is that? Abyssen Daven, das du in deinem Alter wie Tenten aussiehst, ist auch dein Waffenlebe gleich. Und Rock Lee war ein echter Sonderling, trug hässlich grüne Strumpfhosen, hat riesige Augenbrauen und ein Pelzkopfrisser und skreest endig etwas von Jugend. War das Mini, ich seens Lehrers mate a guy. Gott sei Dank siehst du nicht so aus wie die Beiden. Sie tet unbewegt ihr Vieh. Warum hast du geschlafen? Nerdo smiled. As a deity I am tempted to alter the world. While this would certainly enhance it, I think it's best to restrict my interference to the areas I chose when I was still human, establishing peace and leading a good life. In my era, I established peace and maintained it for more than a millennium. Believing the world didn't require my assistance, I slumbered, destined to awaken with the onset of a major conflict. I nearly awakened once, but someone prevented it in time. What has changed in this place? Telebeams, I studied this, but information is limited since only the Fire Lord has all the records. About 1,000 years after your sleep, the ninja disappeared from existence. The world transformed, nature awakened, and created spirits. For a time, they coexisted peacefully with humans, but it was not meant to last. A conflict erupted, and a fire destroyed a forest teeming with spirits. Apparently, it was a bender who stole power from a lion turtle and lived in the wild. This was forbidden. At that time, all humans resided on a giant lion turtle, which granted us bending abilities never more than one element at a time because we couldn't handle more earth, air, fire, or water. Den Kampf zu benden, ging ein Mann zu Jederschelker t on nahm die Matjeeds elements. Niemand way, das Schaft, über mit dieser Kraft stoppt die Kampf unvers and sich mit den Gestern. Dutch dies vertrauten den Menschen nicht mehr unzogen sich in eigen Welt zurück. Der Mann wird zum ersten Bandiger aller vier Element zur Berkey zwischen Mensch und Geist dem Avatar. Och dial Wenschilter ten verli en angeblich die Welt, so dass die Menschen in der jetzigen Form waderlitten. Nicht jeder kann bändigen, aber mindestens die Hälfte der Menschen kann ein Element bändigen. Der Avatar hingegen kann noch immer all vier bändigen. Wird immer wieder in der Chesten Nation des Cyclus geboren erdied Wasser für Luft. Dieser Nationen hat die Aufgabe, das Gleichgewicht zwischen innen aufrechtzuerhalten und Krieg zu verhindern. However, things changed. Approximately a century ago, the reigning Fire Lord believed firebending was superior to all other bending arts and chose to initiate a war. Understanding the cycle, he targeted the air nomads first to disrupt it and prevent the Avatar's emergence. He harnessed the power of a comet he found to enhance his abilities. Sozin's comet. While we know he exterminated them, it's unclear if the Avatar survived. If he did, he's been in hiding for a century. The war continues. The Southern Water Tribe is nearly extinct, while the Northern Water Tribe remains along with most cities of the Earth Kingdom. I understand. Somebody was meticulous. Only the Fire Lord could have accomplished this based on your words. What about Azula? What kind of individual is she? Meestens ist sie, ihren Freunden gegen Bergut, aber sie kann grausam, gesornig, arrogant und selbstherrlich sein, Nerdo runzelt die Stern, Nerdo Freund, ich die dich nemals halen sollen. Den Kinder bringen Verderben. Nerdo nimmt ein Lotushaltung ein Unversat sein Kraft zu mobilisieren, Doch, ein Großteil davon wird blockiert. Verdammt Mist wie befruchtet. Was? Ich bin zwar noch unsterblich, aber ein Großteil meiner Kraft wird versiegelt. Ich vermute, Sozen hat dieses Siegel angebracht, mein Erwächen zu verhindern und mein Energie in einen Gegenstand einzuspeichern zu stir. Wie bei Ihnen kommt hin. But thanks to you I'm awake now, and as the comet approaches I'll regain my power, Naruto says, kissing Tylee on the cheek and causing her to flush. Till says, smiling and shuffling shilly, all I need is time to learn the ways of this new era. Just ask if there's anything I can do to repay you. Would you go out with me? Frack Naruto. He suggests, how about we go on 1 or 2 dates and see how things develop. I might need a job to get some clothes. I look a bit suspicious in this. What do you think, Tylee? She inquires, watching him as he laughs while Tylee joyfully bounds around the room. I was considering joining the circus, but maybe we could give mercenary work a shot. The pay is good and you can choose your own jobs. Plus, if a merc does their job well, no one will bat an eye at their exotic clothing, Naruto beams. Mercenary work, ho. I can do that. Basically, that's what ninjas were before the Shinju era. But are you a bender? No, aber ich habe Ender of Hikiten. Als Acrobat bin ich flexibel schnell und gut koordiniert. Ich bin im Umgang mit Wurfwaffen hervorragend und kann das Fly in von Chai stoppen, indem ich bestimmt Nervenpunkt treff das hindert Bender am Biegen strahlt Naruto. Das Ten ist jetzt nachvollziehbar. Du hast auch ein bisschen Hinnet in dir. Zum Glück als du net gleich in Ohnmacht, wenn dich jemand mag. Wenn ich rausgehe, werd ich dir einige meiner alten Freunde sehen, falls ihr Portraits noch vorhanden sind. Some pictures of your wives and kids resembled me a bit. Are we related? Naruto reflects, I have my doubts. You don't exhibit any of the usual Uzumaki characteristics. If we are, it would be like a single drop in an ocean at this stage. In my time, people married their second cousins, so it wouldn't seem strange to me. Why? Clan tradition. Clans often maintain such customs to prevent the extinction of their bloodlines or to ensure their strength and purity. While it didn't lead to inbreeding as long as the individuals weren't closely related, it did occur at times. Come on, let's choose some weapons to bring along. If you're going to travel with me, I expect you to pick up some new skills. Tail bounces to the wall, which causes a chuckle. What are they? Tail points to 2 weapons on the wall that catch her attention and asks about them, a small double-edged knife with a ring on the hilt and a 4-point bladed star. The most fundamental weapons of a shinobi, kunai and shuriken, serve as distractions, but can inflict significant damage when thrown with precision. Tenten was lethal with any weapon that had a blade, but she particularly excelled with these. The kunai serves multiple functions. It can act as a weapon for close combat, a throwing knife, or even a digging tool when needed. Either to hit an adversary or to affix wire for tying them from afar, the ring on the pommel serves that purpose. Naruto grabs a couple of kunai and 6 shuriken, then skillfully tosses them into the head of a nearby training dummy. Woo und das hier. Indicating a long metal needle, senbon, primarily utilized by medical ninja, is ideal for targeting nerves from afar to incapacitate someone, render them unconscious, or place them in a state resembling death. Poisons can be applied to it as with any blade. Considering your expertise in nerve strikes, I believe this would suit you perfectly. Naruto has sealed away a pouch containing hundreds of senbon, as well as another pouch with kunai and shuriken. Tail inquires about it, stating, sealing seems to be a lost art now. It was what made the Uzumaki great. Sealing could do many things, from sealing items in a scroll to healing, temporarily boosting a person's power, and even sealing a demon within a human. That's just the beginning. Tail mutters, are those enormous creatures what's depicted in the paintings? Naruto antwortet ja die Biju. Sie waren eigentlich kein die Munnen, sondern ursprünglich Teil der Shinju. Als Kaguya sein Kraft Bernam Kamuft Jigen sei un sei absorbert in. Dabei Word sie Jeduch verkeckt on verwandelt sich in ein ungeheuer den Ube. Der Geist der Shinju Word ingespert. Als Eiers hen sie besiegten Versigelt der Altest son sei in sich selbst und Word so zum ersten Genschuriki. Auf seinem Sterbet nutzt sein Krafti zu verhindern, das ungeheuer Entam, indem dessen Mat in nun Teil spaltet und in Form und Bewusstsein gab so entstanden die Bio. Der Körper des Jubi Hingigen Word Versigelt daf Ersthof den Mond als Jeffennis. The moon. Then, where did the moon spirit originate from? Nerdu replies, upon attaining godhood I took the Jubi's body and separated the remnants of the old Shinyu and Kaguya from it. In her desperation before being sealed, she willed into existence a monster that brought about those events. However, it was too tainted to return to her, so I resealed her within the moon. Over time, her body revived and developed a new will and life. Eventually, I believe she or her descendant became the moon spirit we recognize today. Nerdu nods and says, "Woe," adding, "Now that you have your long-range option, we should look for something short, light, and fast." Tenten used a bowstaff or club, but that's too rigid for you. Maybe as claws. Nerdu walks up to a table that holds a collection of hand claws, each with 4 curved blades. He grins as he lifts them and displays them to Tylee, who remarks, "Beautiful." A deathed gift from Hinata's daughter, Hizui was a kind girl with a sharp tongue. These blades were crafted in the same forges as the 7 blades of the mist. Under that belief, Nerdu says, Kiba, her father, had them created for her. He felt immense pride on the day she became a training ninja. "Do you really mean that?" "Looks like a family heirloom to me," Nerdu mutters. Her final wish was for me to transfer them to someone I thought would use them properly. I have now done this. When Nerdu performs hand signals and then slams his hands into what seems to be an empty wall, several unusual-looking weapons are revealed. His mother's sword, his father's kunai, his sensei's mask, his third wife's dagger, his first son's claws, and his armor. Fairly certain there was a wall previously. Gen spirit art. You merely thought a wall existed, concealed within an illusion, one of the 5 essential ninja arts, which are T-spirit art, nin-spirit art, gen-spirit art, ken-spirit art, and fun-spirit art. Your ancestors were masters in T-spirit art and ken-spirit art. Mine in ken-spirit art and fun-spirit art. I also excelled in nin-spirit art, but until later in my mortal life I was incapable of using gen-spirit art. Way. Smiles, I will explain it during your training. Come, I want to show you my oldest friends before we leave. Nerdu opens a concealed door and grins at Tylee, saying, "The first rule of ninja is to look underneath the underneath." What does it signify? She knits her brows. Initially, I also didn't get it. A ninja's life is fundamentally characterized by deception. Thus, if you cannot discern when someone is lying, it could lead to your death or the death of another. It goes beyond just ninjas. If my life is any indication, Nerdu pauses and frowns as if deep in thought. "A tale for another occasion," he says. After nearly 20 minutes of walking through the secret corridor, Nerdu beams, "Here, the Hyde Ninja Village 12. My classmates from the academy, and on the other side are those who earned a place in my heart, but not of the 12. Why were they called the Hyde Ninja Village 12? At the academy, you take a test every year to graduate and become a genin. However, this is just the beginning. Graduating does not automatically make you a genin. This status is determined by your assigned jonin sensei. In that year, only 9 of us passed the test, including me. This was already unusual, and just 6 months later, the training ninja exams took place. It's uncommon for one rookie team to enter, but that year 4 teams did, so we became known as the Hyde Ninja Village 12. Tylee stares at him blankly. "Sounds like your senseis were lazy," Nerdu chuckles. Kurane was a bit of an overbearing mother figure for her team, and Gay was crazy as a loon, but yeah, Kakashi and Asuma were lazy like a nare. Naruto gestures to Shikamaru, who looks sleepy in the picture. Shikamaru Nara. The Nara clan were the strategists of Hyde Ninja Village, each one a genius, but they were all incredibly lazy. If they weren't sleeping or staring at clouds, they were complaining about something being troublesome or a drag. Chuckles, sounds like my friend May. And here are Tenten and Lee, says Naruto with a nod and a laugh. With a smile directed at her forebears, Ty remarks, I always figured she'd end up with Neji. But he ended up with a civilian girl. It's not very Hyuga of him, but they changed a lot after the Exodus. Du hattest recht, ich freu mich, dass ich wie Tenten aussi sagte. Exism. Naruto replies, after my exile from Hyde Ninja Village, my lineage became public knowledge and all laws maintaining my secret status were annulled. Many who were acquainted with my parents were appalled by how I was treated, yet they were powerless to intervene due to legal restrictions. As Uzu began its restoration, many moved there to live and work. 5 years later, upon completing my training and acquiring the Shinyu's power, most others departed from Hyde Ninja Village in a mass exodus. I'm astonished that didn't spark a war. That would have devastated the village, Naruto replies. If anyone else had been headmaster, you'd be correct. However, I left ample financial support for Hyde Ninja Village's economy to bounce back over time, and the exodus was gradual, so they managed the changes effectively. Hyde Ninja Village endured until I fell asleep, and was stronger than ever by then. Who is the headmaster, and what is their role? It's no wonder you don't know. Kage or Shadow is the leader of one of the major villages. There used to be 5 major villages until Uzu was rebuilt. Later I was known as the Usukage or Whirl Shadow, along with other titles such as Headmaster or Fire Shadow, Raikage or Lightning Shadow, Mizukage or Water Shadow, Kasekage or Wind Shadow, and Sukakage or Stun Shadow. My life as a child was shaped by the fact that a Kage, being the strongest ninja in a village and serving the people, had that role. Don't misunderstand me, these were ninja villages, so even with civilians present, we operated as a military dictatorship. A Kage could only be governed by a land's daimyo unless they granted their council excessive freedom. But as I said before, that's a tale for another occasion. When I was a child, the headmaster was Hiruzen Sarutobi, he said, pointing to an image of an elderly gentleman. He died during the training ninja exams when a new village and an alley invaded, killed by his own student. The new headmaster after him was 5th Headmaster Senyu, one of the 3 Sannin, and my godmother, though I didn't know it at the time. Tilly smiled. Who are the others here? Indicating them, Naruto provides some details about each one. Hinata Hyuga, she was the clan's heiress but was seen as a failure. She worked hard to better herself, however, she struggled with self-esteem issues during my childhood. I was quite unaware and didn't notice her feelings for Mei. She couldn't bring herself to confess. Whenever I got too close, she'd turn red and lose consciousness. Laughs Kaiba Inuzuka, whose clan specialized in tracking and animalistic spirit arts, worked with Ninken bred to be stronger and smarter than ordinary dogs. Kiba was a decent guy but somewhat arrogant, always considering himself an alpha, as he would say. He was also a womanizer and a pervert, having a crush on Hinata, who ironically was one of the few girls safe from his advances. They got married shortly after me and Samui. Shano Eberem, the Eberem clan specialized in bug spirit art. They were unique as living colonies for their bugs, who resided within them. They communicated with these bugs and fought alongside them in exchange for the bugs feeding on their core energy. The Aberame were highly logical individuals, often almost as intelligent as a Nara. Despite being quiet and appearing creepy, they were loyal friends. Tele grumbles, I don't think I could get past the bug thing. Naruto smiles, many felt the same way, and I always appreciated that they never held it against anyone. In fact, given my background, the Aberame were quite sympathetic to me as a child, even if they never showed it. Sakura Haruno, a clanless ninja from a civilian background, is exceptionally intelligent, but can be a bit slow to grasp things that aren't in books. For many years, she could be considered a fangirl, as she never trained and was always gushing over Naruto. She was so obsessed that she would hit me if I showed any talent or spoke ill of him. Later on, it was discovered that her core energy control was nearly perfect due to her low reserves. She began focusing more on her training and became an apprentice to the 5th headmaster as a medical ninja. Ultimately, she surpassed her master in every aspect. I had a crush on her during our time in the academy, but I got over it after the exams. In the end, she married Naruto, which had always been her dream. Tail detected anger in his voice, but she stayed quiet, believing he would clarify things shortly. I have already mentioned the Nara to you, so you can infer much of what I would say about Shikamaru. He was a wonderful friend who understood me before anyone else did. He was the first among us to train ninjas, and when I called for people to help build Uzo, he was among the first to respond. Together with his future wife, he managed my finances for the entire project. He married Temeri Sabeko, the sister of the Kasakage. She is an intelligent woman and an outstanding ninja, headstrong and a person who would defeat anyone who dared to imply otherwise. Apart from me, she was one of the most powerful wind users of that era. Chodi Akimishi wo der ist ja fet, grummelt Naruto das ist ein Merkmal des Clans. Die Akimishi verwendeten eine Form von Spirit, Art, ihren Körper in Twitter teilweise oder ganz auf unglaublich Guren zu vergern. Sein Vader konnte so groß wie ein Bu werden. Das Problem dabei war, dass sie ein riesig Mengen Energie verbrannten und daher fast ständig essen mussten. Man sagt so einem Akimichi niemals, dass dick ist, es hat immer große Nutzen oder pummelig oder so etwas. Wenn du fett sagst, bekommst du einen Flatschmann zur Cake, grummelt Tilly. Achte auf den Gedanken. Hihi aber ja, ich habe solch Chit och von seiner Zukunftigen Frau Gerhard. Speaking of which, Ino Yamanaka is another fangirl for Naruto in the academy. She is intelligent and resembles Sakura in many ways, but she is less violent and abusive. The Yamanaka clan was known as Mind Walkers due to their spirit art affecting the mind. Their most notable ability was to transfer their consciousness into another person, allowing them to control or access their memories. However, this technique has limitations. Anything that occurs to the possessed individual also affects the Yamanaka's physical body, which goes completely limp, while someone else controls it. This makes the Ino Shika Cho team's combination attacks effective. Nara's shadow spirit art immobilizes an opponent, Yamanaka takes control of someone and turns them against their allies, and Akimichi finishes off what remains. You could wipe out an army with a combo like that, Naruto says, and that's precisely what their fathers did, forming that team. Though officially they were a capture and interrogation team, Naruto laughs. Neji Hyuga, Hinata's cousin from the Hyuga branch family, he was angry at the main family as a child, especially at Hinata. He even attempted to kill her during the second phase of the training ninja exams. Wife. Naruto lets out a sigh. The clan head had a twin, Hisashi was Neji's father. As a child, Hinata was targeted for kidnapping by a Kumo ninja who was a diplomat, and Hisashi killed him, leading Kumo to demand his head. Tale goes on, however, since she was his twin, they proposed his brother instead, which angered Neji. Naruto replies, there are additional details, but that summarizes it. The responsibility of the branch family is to safeguard the main family. Each member of the branch has a seal branded on them that can inflict pain or cause death at will. When someone dies with this seal, their eyes are sealed and destroyed, preventing Kumo from obtaining the Bakugan. Bakugan, the Hyuga bloodline, part of the trio known as the Three Great Spirit Art, alongside the Sharingan and Rinnegan. During the third phase of the exams, I defeated Neji and altered his perspective on fate, resulting in him becoming a better person. I also annulled the Hyuga clan's rights to the caged bird seal while I was in exile, as it belonged to the Uzumaki and was my right to revoke. This is all a bit too complex for me, he grumbles. With time and training you will understand it, but this information has been lost for thousands of years, so it's no wonder. Lee, who was born with a genetic condition that impacted his core energy coils and limited his use of core energy to basic functions, aimed to become a remarkable ninja like his teacher through the Te Spirit art. Unfortunately, he ended up being an almost exact replica of his teacher, which was quite unsettling. While Neji was regarded as a genius, Lee was seen as a genius of diligence. During the second phase, he astonished everyone by removing his weights and creating a huge crater upon their drop. At that time, he was second in speed only to his teacher. Tenten Higurashi ein weiter Zivilisten und Tochter des Besitzers von Higurisches Waffengeschaft entwickelt Skan in Jungen Duren ein Leben so Waffen die fast so wirkt als Reed cc Leibhaber behandeln. Bis zu ihrem Umzug nach Yuzu war sie als Waffenmeisterin des Hyde Ninja Dorfs bekannt niemand wusste mehr ber Waffen Bestjade als sie, nicht einmal der Schulleiter oder die Oft fragten wir uns ob Tenten ein Spitzname war, weil sie mit einer perfekten Trefferquote von 10 aus 10 treff. Sie waren untalentiert und ein wunderbar Person Lee hatf Arsenen Teamkollegen nicht besser Halentinnen grinst Teil. Sie wundert ihr Verwandten sehr. Last but not least, Naruto frund Uchiha. Der Ausschnitt aus dem Bildskri vor Arrogans und Ored und Teile hem skaint, als hätte jemand nach meinem Schlaf einen neuen Hass auf ihn entwickelt. Oder einer seiner Nachfahren. Jedenfalls Word als Uchiha dazu erzigen, talentiert und stark zu sein aber nicht besteden. Arrogant und anspruchsvoll wie jeder andere hat die Wahl aus allen Tischen seines Alters und sogar aus vielen anderen. Dan massakriert sein Lothar, talentierter Bruder seinen Clan und Word dadurch schlimmer verhent und attend. Stur Reich, was vor ihnen Uchiha ein gefährlich Sach ist. So diesem Zeitpunkt war mein Teamkollege und Revel. Nach den Perfungen verli das Dorf unvariat as Orochimaru auf Ermacht zu dienen. The headmaster ordered his capture, so a large group of my classmates, including myself, pursued him. We faced resistance from the Sound Five, a formidable group of ninjas led by Orochimaru. While my teammates dealt with them, I chased after Naruto's friend. I defeated him and brought him back to the village. A week later, I was summoned to the council chambers. It seems the civilian council bypassed the fifth headmaster and contacted the daimyo about me being banished from Hyde Ninja Village. Naturally, Naruto's friend had his core energy sealed and was neutered to thwart his and Orochimaru's plans, which infuriated them. Ich tat so dieser Zeit it was, mit dem sie nicht gerechnet hatten, ich schelt zum zweiten Mal in diesem Jahr. Sie haben sich aufgrund ihrer blinden Abneigung selbst ins neue Gestatchen, sagt Naruto lachend, was Cheln verurteilt. Tilly frowns again, saying, I guess that's for later too, but Naruto hugs her and reassures her with, don't worry, I'll tell you everything in due time. She then nods and smiles. Is this what you were referring to regarding healing, Naruto friend? She inquires. Upon attaining godhood, I deemed him worthy of another opportunity. He had changed significantly, even to the point of offering me an apology, something I thought would never occur. Naruto grins and agrees. After I healed him, he married Sakura, and even forgave his brother for marrying Shizune. Shizune? He inquires, pointing to a photo beside the fifth headmaster's. She was his first apprentice, the niece of the fifth headmaster's late partner, his longtime assistant, and the custodian of the legendary Sakura herself, fifth headmaster Senyu. Snorting Sakura of legend. What did she do to earn that name? She was passionate about two things, drinking and gambling. Unfortunately, she only excelled at drinking. Whenever she won at gambling, misfortune followed. As her debts mounted, she became known across the 5 nations as the legendary Sakura before becoming headmaster, overshadowing names like Pervy Sage or Orochimaru. Pervy Sage of Orochimaru. Grins Naruto. Pervy Sage, recognized as the legendary Sannin of the Sannin, served as my father's teacher and was also his godfather. Nevertheless, I still don't feel pity for the man due to his actions. Once more, a tale for later. Orochimaru, known as Orochimaru of the Sannin, was the most infamous traitor to the leaf until Itachi. He was known for having a fondness for young boys, and with his serpent-like demeanor and way of speaking one could wonder about the truth of it. Till it chuckles, ninjas are strange. Naruto shrugs once more, you don't understand. While proceeding through the tunnel, they arrive at a sealed door blocking their way. Naruto cleans some blood from the door, which then opens into the sunlight. Tail exits, casts a backward look, and the door shuts, altering its look to blend in with the surrounding rock wall. Morgen spirit art. Gleiches Konzept, aber na dran Tarnseelchen. Und das Seelchen. Hey, were signed in Duren he von meinem Zuhause Sack sei und nicht. Der Blutzigel ken nur für mich oder mein Family Gifnet werden, es sie den, ich have dem array das Blut einer anderen Person hinzo Sack see. She sees that Naruto is in tears and questions, hey, what's the matter? Nix ernsts ich stets, es war zu viel verlangt, das ein Imperium ulnenger als ein paar tausend Jahre hält, sagt unstatt sie, en rend sich die Turnen abwist. Could you clarify what you mean? She knits her brows. This island might have changed, but it's still Yuzu, my family's home, she says as she hugs him. Naruto, while crying, offers her another embrace and apologizes. Who is the big baby Ty Lee? A mate of yours. 5 other girls jiggle, and Naruto, stopping his tears, glances at them. He frowns at each of them, nearly identical. Bullies, he detests bullies. He speaks softly so they can't hear. Are these girls your sisters? She gives a nod. The elder scowls have been overlooked, while the rest of the girls frown. This is something she cannot stand. Her parents often portrayed her as similar to others in the large family, which led her to become the boss. The eldest required the most focus, while Ty Lee, being the youngest and most appealing, was regarded as merely a bug to be stepped on. What gall she has to disregard her. Yes, I am her boyfriend, but I don't appreciate your insensitivity to my pain or your bullying of your family, she snarls. What's it to yo? She strides up behind her and goes for her hair, saying answer me worm, but Naruto seizes her hand and halts her. She commits her second error and gazes into his icy eyes, witnessing death and suffering within. Then she retreats. Family ist für mich das Kostbarst. Ich habe viel Jahre und sie gelebt, war voller Hass und Verachtung. Man hat es versut, mich zu bringen, doch man hat mich verbent, ich habe trainiert und bin stark geworden. Ich habe mein Family gewonnen und lebt glücklich mit zusammen. Der ist es für mich ein Geril, wenn jemand auf sein Family tritt. Schiets es den Family, den eins Tages Kantes du sie verlieren. While he spoke, she looked into his eyes, and when they changed shape for a moment, she glimpsed images from his life and came to understand that hell exists. The impact of his words was heavy for her. As he departed with Ty Lee, she remained on the ground while her sisters inquired if she was all right, and she yelled, "What was that?" Naruto, panting, states, "Janie has never cried in my presence." Te notes, that was tougher than he recalled. Sorry, that was something I had to do, but it's exhausting for me given my condition. It's a spirit art performed through the eyes, but my spirit art is sealed until I regain enough strength to unlock it. I refined it with Kurine and Itachi, and it's based on the Uchiha spirit art Tsukuyomi. As I spoke, she saw significant moments from my life, mostly flashes. Let's just say it wasn't pretty. I hope she internalizes the lesson and understands the importance of family. Tilly smiles and hugs him. So we're to next. Een Ort, der mir als kind Angst injagt, sagt Naruto Chelt. Een Bibliothek sagt sei offenbar verword. Een Bibliothek lat sie undufhört in zur Inselbibliothek. It's the oldest structure on the island, and is said to be modeled after an ancient civilization, Naruto says with a grin. It's an Uzumaki design. Really? When they arrived, he had already recovered. Upon entering, Naruto flashed a grin and remarked, I didn't expect to see the old Uzumaki. Without seals and at a high cost, it is challenging to make it appear so nice. Tejuna accomplished it due to his exceptional skills as a builder. I am curious about what became of little Inari. You are in for a treat, my specialty spirit art, Naruto exclaims, while joyfully rubbing his hands and laughing. He forms a cross with his fingers, resulting in the appearance of over 100 copies of himself. Tilly's jaw hit the floor. But what? The shadow clone spirit art, which involves splitting core energy evenly among clones, enables the creation of a solid clone that possesses your memories and transmits anything it sees or hears back to your mind upon dispelling. Although it is intended for reconnaissance and spying, I utilize it more than anyone else. I use it for training and to read a large volume of text simultaneously. Naruto frowns. My control must be worse than I thought. I could get double that on my first try, he says. Tail approaches the clone with a chuckle and gives it a light tap on the head, making it disappear. Gur 1000 jar und ich hätte es nie herausgefunden, warum einige von ihnen sich so verhalten, sagt mit ihnen Sternenzeln. Since you mentioned that they have your memories, do you believe it constitutes a part of your personality? Naruto shakes his head and remarks, it was just one theory, but some of them did things I wouldn't do even if my life depended on it. It crossed my mind that it could be the Kyuubi's influence, but that theory was also disproven. The only explanation I can think of is that the spirit art has some inherent flaw, considering I can produce far more than the creator anticipated. By whom was it made? She pouts, it sounds a little like Azula. Naruto laughs and responds, it's funny you mentioned that he despised Uchiha more than most. That's significant considering the Senju and Uchiha were long-standing rival clans engaged in constant warfare before the villages were established. He despised them, yet they shared many commonalities. That's ironic. And if this Azula is indeed a descendant of Naruto's friend, as I suspect, then it's even more fitting, she states. While Naruto meditates for 2 hours, Tylee practices yoga and acrobatics. After meditating, Naruto smiles at her and says, you have great balance. She responds with a grin similar to his and asks, thanks. How much have you read so far? De meesten meiner clone zijn fertig, nog een paar lessen sich in die gesticht een. Ich war nie een fan van gesticht. Die Lut, die is oftem gen signed wandeln schlafmittel. Salsummerwise become ich weiter spiritliche information deju. Na je Tylee sucht mit den Skultern und Arablick word it was terbur. Wie man so schön sagt, die Sieger schreiben die Gesticht. Die für Nationglot, sei die best, also word in deren Bibliotheken G dort versitnit Gesticht entsprechend destrieben das klappt aber nicht immer richtig. Violett hat man im Erdreich mehr gültig bei der such nach einer akkuraten Geschichtschreibung. Naruto lays a map of the nations on the table and demonstrates to her how much has changed. It seems as if the continent fractured and the land masses shifted drastically. Tail scowls, this map is 1,000 years old, and, as far as I know, it's still quite accurate. Is it really that different? Naruto unseals a map and examines it, stating, indeed, the Fire Nation has drifted far to the west, lightning, and most of the smaller nations have merged into stone and become earth. Water divided to the north and south, placing Yuzu within fire. Wind separated to the east and west, turning into air. It's as if something altered how the world operates, causing the spirits to object and divide the world. A change like that, unless it occurred over a millennium, or was intended, would annihilate millions. Humanity would have become an endangered species, Tylee agrees. They were before the Avatar's era. Most people think it's nonsense, but I doubt the Avatar knows about the legends that support such ideas. Naruto responds, there's no way to know what survives in a cycle of rebirth like that. Orochimaru would have killed for that kind of power, and I know he did. He shakes off his gloomy musings, packs up and turns to Tylee. Okay, I'm set to go. Where do you think we should head? Tia ponders, tapping her chin, the Air Nation is gone, and the Water Nation has been somewhat withdrawn lately. The Fire Nation feels a bit too near for me at the moment, so why not venture into the Earth Nation? Naruto agrees with a nod and asks, do you have anything to take care of before we depart? She frowns. I need to pack and I might not like them, but I should say goodbye to my sisters. Nerdu grins, family matters even if you were not fond of them, I'm starting to like you more and more. Tilly reddens. They arrive at Tyle's house almost at sunset. Nerdu waits outside while she packs. Just as she is nearly finished, Janie enters with a frown and asks, "What are you doing?" "A brazen." Emit You've only just met him. Sure he's cute, but what do you see in him anyway? Well, let's see. I'm smart, confident, talented, strong, and most importantly, I'm not afraid of my family. Janie bows her head, embarrassed. I know I haven't been a good sister, but I can't let you leave with him, you don't even know him. Tyle approaches Janie and embraces her. I will always love you, but this is my decision. Bei Janie. Tyle dashes out the door, followed by Janie. If you won't listen to me, then I have no choice but to challenge him, says Nerdo with a frown. Why? Sie ist mein Schwester, sie kennt dich nicht. Wie können wir sicher sein, dass du sie best sein kannst? She might have faith in you, but do you have the strength to protect her? Demonstrate it to make. Mit einem Lächeln fragt Nerdo, hat sie denselben Stil wie du? Nerdo smirks, yeah, I'm more agile and flexible, but she's stronger. Strength isn't always the best option. As he steps forward, he assumes a stance that none of them have witnessed before. Janie enters the family stance and charges at him, but to him, even in his weakened condition, she seems to be moving in slow motion. What ensues is neither a challenge nor a fight, it is a one-sided beating. He spins into action, swinging his arms in a spiral motion to knock her off balance before hitting her arms. He flips and drives his foot into her abdomen, leaving her dazed and weakened in a crater. Drawing a loose connection to the Goken, I was correct about your lineage. Rock Lee would be embarrassed by your slowness, while Tenten would disapprove of your lack of respect, yet they would both take pride in your familial devotion. When you next encounter Tylee, she will be almost unrecognizable to you. She will possess strength beyond your imagination. Until that moment comes, I vow to safeguard her, and Uzumaki never breaks a promise. Oren si sich abwenden fragt Tylee, ich habe so etwas noch nie gesehen. Was were das? Uzukan spiral fist, my mother created it, and it instilled fear in others. Maeda Gai was her student, and adapted the Goken from it, sacrificing lateral mobility for increased strength and speed. Only an Uzumaki can wield the true Uzukan. So he fashioned the Goken to resemble it. Your family style is loosely based on the Goken, as I mentioned, with other elements incorporated. Looks like there's a lot we should be grateful for from your friends and family. That's how it goes when you save and transform the world. Even during my time, I saw that certain prominent individuals continued to have an impact even after they passed away. For instance, the first headmaster, he was the reason the village system came to be. That makes sense. It's too late to catch a boat now, and I'd prefer not to return, so what do we do now? As he approached the pier, Nerdo gave a smirk and said, watch. He makes hand gestures and slams his hands into the sand, creating a wooden house before their eyes. Wow, is there anything you can't do? He chuckles, at full power not much, but yeah, there will always be something I can do. For instance, I'm really impatient. I guess that's an Uzumaki trait, but it seems I'm worse than my mom was. I've improved, but I still struggle to sit still. She smiles broadly. I can relate. He nods as they enter the building. That's Lee's influence. When the Sand King broke his spine and crushed one arm and one leg, he was doing one-armed push-ups as soon as he could move. She chuckles and then inhales sharply upon seeing the house. Wow, I know folks who would kill for a place like this. It's simple but has a nice vibe and is spacious, she says. He agrees, saying wood style draws heavily from nature, so a house made with it always feels that way. Come on, wait until you see the bedrooms. She reddens at his next remark. You mean we were not sharing a bed? Nerdu lifts an eyebrow. Well, Tylee, aren't we feeling forward? She shakes her head, saying, not like that, I just have never had a boyfriend before, I want to cuddle. Naruto hugs her and kisses her head, replying, "It's fine, I was just kidding. If you feel comfortable enough for that, then sure." They awaken to loud knocking on the door, and Naruto groans, "Never was a morning person." Tail giggles, "Pack your stuff, I expect that's someone upset about us being here." She nods and grabs her pack before joining him at the door. He opens it to reveal a pair of Fire Nation soldiers. "Can I help you? Why have you constructed this house here? This land is owned by the Fire Lord." "Apologies, I didn't know. Take a step back for a second and I'll fix that." He narrowed his eyes and the soldiers complied with his request. Their eyes then widened as the house shrank and vanished into the sand as if it were receding. He dusts his hands off and smiles, saying, "Sorry for the inconvenience, we'll be heading out now." Before he has taken 10 steps, the soldier calls out for him to stop, and he groans in response, "Yes. How about enlisting in the army of the Fire Nation?" Is Gypt veel grind. Some een ben ich keen vuurb en diger, weshalb man mich unev engig von menerst werk oder en slichkeit immer geringsten und von mat fernhalten weird das has ich. Some anderen habe ich noch een Rechnung mit dem Grovader des Führerlords offen. Een night zuletzt ekelt mich als en der Führer Nation incessamten. He starts to walk away until a fireball explodes past his head. "If you're against the Fire Nation, you're an enemy." Growling, he turns to the man. "What will it take for you to leave me alone? Ich fordere dich zu einer Agnikai Heros. Zu wasm." The second soldier, sweating, turns to Tylee and asks, "Is he for real?" She shrugs, not wanting to explain. Agnikai is mostly a fire duel. It's a means of settling disputes one-on-one, mainly used by royal family members and high-ranking officers to regain their honor after being slandered, but it's not uncommon in lower ranks as well. Naruto nods to show he understands, saying, "So it doesn't matter if I'm not a bender, as long as I fight and knock him on his ass." She acknowledges with a nod, more or less the point. The second soldier looks displeased, saying he's behaving as if this is no problem. Is he really that good? Are you acquainted with Janie? He nods and replies, "Isn't that the case for everyone on Ember Island?" With a smirk, she says she issued him a challenge yesterday. He frowns further and asks what was his performance like. Defeated her in under 2 seconds and appeared effortless. She didn't come anywhere near to making contact with him. He left her in a crater. The man, appearing to lose color beneath his mask, smiles widely. "This might be fun to watch then," he says with a giggle. Tylee adds, "You don't have much liking for your friend, do you?" As he shook his head, he said, "He's no friend. His father is a high-ranking general, and it has made him arrogant. I can hardly tolerate him at any time, but he is a skilled bender." Tail squints as Naruto mimics her posture, and the firebender hurls a fireball at him. Naruto evades the attack and charges at the man, delivering multiple kicks to his chin that propel him higher into the air. Then, Naruto leaps off the ground behind the man, ensnaring him in bandages and spinning him in a tornado until he crashes headfirst into the sand. Naruto flips backward into his stance as the man falls unconscious. Was that the way he defeated Janie? No, he utilized something different, but this was equally remarkable. I don't believe he enjoys wasting time in a fight unless he's having fun. The man nods. Skilled combatant. Hey Naruto, what was that? It resembled my style. Was that Goken? He gives a nod. Yes, it's the Goken style primary lotus. By opening the first core energy gate, your speed and power triple, enabling the use of primary lotus. In any other environment, that impact would have killed him, but on soft sand like this, he'll only wake up with a sore neck and a headache. While the soldier pulls his fellow soldier away, she smiles and says, "Going to show me how to do that?" "Sure, when you were ready." The gates are regarded as conspirit art because they put a lot of strain on the body. Opening all 8 will make you equal to a god, but it will cost you your life. Conspirit art. Forbidden spirit art. It's not what it seems. Only one or two spirit arts have been deemed truly forbidden for moral reasons, and those are kin spirit art due to their cost. This cost can be high core energy like my shadow clone, damage to the body like the 8 celestial gates, or death like the Reaper death seal. That's how my father died, if you were curious. At what time do we begin the training? Once we arrive at the Earth Nation, I'll need to retrain some of my skills as well. We require a location where we won't draw too much attention or cause any damage, so a boat isn't suitable. She nods, and they proceed to the pier to book a ferry. The journey lasts a week, during which they become quite familiar with one another. Durdu shares stories about the history of ninja and their actions, some of which astonish her slightly but not excessively. She discusses her family and the Fire Nation with him, and he is relieved to learn that things aren't entirely bad. After another week, they arrived at an isolated valley distant from any towns and commenced their training. Nerdu began with core energy control and redrawing his resistance seals as they appeared to have faded over time. With Tylee, he focused on unlocking her core energy, a task that took little time due to her understanding of the human body, and Chai, this was the new term for core energy. While it was a different type of energy, its mechanics were identical, and he believed the process would be no different. After he had her unlock her core energy or chi, she began practicing the first control exercise of leaf balancing. It took her a day to master it, and he remarked, "Nice, it took me a month to learn that." She responded with surprise, "Really? What for?" Greater core energy equates to diminished control. Conversely, less core energy results in greater control. Take Sakura for instance, her reserves were minimal yet her control was impeccable. I could use spirit art all day long, but she managed to perform one with considerably less core energy, so does that imply I'll never possess a large amount of core energy? He shakes his head, "No, like anything you can train it. The more you use it, the more you'll get back. Also, you don't actually have core energy like I do, you have chi. Does it differ?" He shrugs, "It feels different, there's a different energy, but the pathways and workings are the same, so I don't see why we shouldn't call it core energy." The leaf balancing exercise proves this point. If it didn't operate in the same way, it wouldn't work at all. Consider this: if it functions in exactly the same way, you might be able to use multiple elements like I do. You would be the first in thousands of years aside from the Avatar. Her eyes widen. "Really? Cool." Nerdu grins at her enthusiasm. In the Hyde Ninja Village, one of the requirements for Jounin rank was to master 2 or more elements. Only a few, like the Hyuga, were exceptions, as they did not use conventional spirit art. So what elements were there? The fundamental elements that everyone could learn were earth, wind, fire, water, and lightning. After that came the subelements. Telementive. What is that? Keki Genki oder Blutlinien, wie das Beikigen. He nods. Some bloodlines permitted a spirit art, while others allowed for things like absorbing nature energy to become a super-powered berserk monster, or becoming super fast and turning to smoke. Then there were the subelements. The first one I heard of was wood style, though it wasn't the first one I saw. You use wood style, don't you? He nods and asks, which other ones are there? To mention a few, ice, boil, lava, explosion, and crystal are among the more intriguing. Why do they have the name subelements? They are considered bloodlines because you can only use one element at a time. To combine elements in your body, a bloodline is necessary. For example, wood is a combination of earth and water, ice combines water and wind, crystal consists of earth and lightning, lava is made up of earth and fire, and boil is a fusion of fire and water. She nods, saying, "If wood wasn't the first one you saw, which was?" He smiles at the memory and recounts his first C-rank mission to Wave, saying, "Whoa, Haku seems like a nice girl. Wait, isn't she one of the girls in the hallway I came in from?" He nods, saying, "My first wife had no issues with sharing, and I had many girls who genuinely loved me back then. It wasn't just crushes, I made it clear that Sammy always came first, but they wanted to be with me." Sammy changed their minds when she got kinky. No girl was purely straight after she was done with them. Teo blushes. Why did Heike assert that he was a boy? Naruto scratches his head. Well, Zabuza was never much of a girl person, and she didn't want to burden him with that. Besides, one of the Kunoichi's biggest fears was capture and rape, so pretending to be a boy reduced the likelihood. Why would people do that? He shrugs, saying, I'm not claiming it's correct, but it did occur. There were definitely worse outcomes, and I'm nearly scared to inquire, but like. Breeders, do you recall what I mentioned about Hinata's abduction by Kumo? She gives a nod. While it is possible to transplant eyes, they will never function as effectively in someone who isn't a Hyuga. Kumo sought a Hyuga girl to use as a breeder to incorporate the Byakugan into their ranks. They attempted this with my mother as well until my father saved her. Tylee growls. Disgusting. Perhaps, but it's military strategy to take a weapon and make it your own. To them, the ends justified the means. Fortunately, after the Hyuga incident, Kumo lost faith in the third Raikage and had him executed. The fourth was somewhat of a brute, but he was a much better person, and that practice ended. I'm just glad that such things died out with the shinobi from this war. It would have been much worse. Tylee relaxes. Tomorrow I'll start you on the next exercise. I want you to master it before I teach you the 3 Academy Spirit Art. Which exercise follows next? Naruto smirks, approaches a tree, and gradually ascends the trunk to position himself upside down under a branch. Whoa! 1 week later, while Tylee stands on water attempting to balance, Naruto smiles at her, saying, nice. It usually takes most people months to reach this stage, but you've accomplished it in just a week. You have talent. She flashes him a grin, but then falls into the water, which makes him laugh. When she gets to the shore, he gives her a towel and smiles while saying, don't worry. If you do it enough times, it will come naturally. Are you serious? Das kann ich mir nicht vorstellen. Hebt ein Augenbrau. Wishald nicht. You perform daily activities automatically, and while you know how to throw a punch, do you ever have to consciously think about it in the moment? What about breathing? In surprise, she gazes at him, then she frowns as she considers it. After a shrug, she smiles and says, okay, what's next? He smiles, in spirit art, my favorite subject. Tylee had spent a month avoiding people and towns, and her training was progressing well. Naruto's core energy control was meeting his expectations again, and they were ready to start searching for work. They stumbled upon a small bar in a Fire Nation outpost. The pervy sage always said that the best place to find leads or information was either a brothel or a bar. Since I'm not really into the brothel thing, let's grab a drink, Tylee snorted. Personally, I have nothing against brothels, but I'm not interested in the kinds of people you find there, she added. With a smile, Naruto wraps his arm around her waist and says, would you be surprised to learn that I was nearly brought up by the women of the red light district? She raises an eyebrow. Yeah, it would. But then again, it's not the sort of thing that legends are made of. Sometimes the devil wears nice clothing. A rather scary woman grins at them from the bar. Then you know people well. Sometimes the best people are found dirty in the gutter, he laughs. You paint a pretty picture. I would have said the truth is found in darkness, but I developed a poetic streak some time ago, she smirks. I'm June. Naruto shakes her hand. Naruto. This is Tylee. We are mercenaries looking for work. Although I'm primarily a bounty hunter, I take on mercenary work when I can't find anything better. There's no shortage of it in the Earth Nation. What do you specialize in? Assassin? Liebshooter? Spionage? Personally, I'm fine with anything, but I avoid assassination unless I believe the victim deserves it or it serves a greater purpose. Since Tylee is just starting out, I would take on a few bodyguard or capture bounties first. To clarify, what do you mean by higher purpose? You are not a religious fanatic, are you? Is all that praise directed to the almighty log idiots? Or snorted on Tylee Kitchert? Neen ich mein nur, wenn das die 10 Einzelnen mans 100 oder sogar einer ganzen Nation das Leben rettet selbst wenn der Tipp ein et netter Kerl ist, Schluss mit dem Leben. Also ein Prinzipienmensch. For a moment, Nerdo's eyes darken, and Tylee recognizes that he is recalling a painful memory. No, I've just killed far too many innocents because of orders from those who shouldn't have been in a position to give them. I sleep better knowing that I've saved more lives than I've taken. So you're a man with regrets. I can relate. Anyway, in every town and city you visit, there will be a board displaying job offers. This kind of place often has one, it's in the corner behind you. Nerdo finishes his drink in one go and puts the cash on the counter. Thanks. While they stroll away, June makes a face. Too bad he's taken. Seems like my type of guy. What do you think? The bartender acknowledges he's going to stir things up. He seems more seasoned than he appears and carries the demeanor of a veteran war hero despite looking no older than 25. He's a good guy to befriend, but you do want to avoid making him an enemy. She agrees as they examine the board, saying, yeah, that's the impression I got too. With Nerdo, what's this all about regarding the almighty log? He laughs lightly. At some point, you heard me mention Kami, correct? She nods. Kami is a goddess, although she doesn't reside in the mortal realm like I do. The log is a mortal concept, and it seems the joke has taken on a more religious significance. She tilts her head. Shinyu was once a tree before he was absorbed by a mortal. When Shinobi developed the replacement spirit art and began using it on logs, people joked about praising the almighty log. No one could explain why a log could still be used even if there was no wood present, so the joke evolved further over time. Shinyu used to say he was flattered, though it took me some time to understand why. Now 4,000 years later, some things have changed while others have not, and I find it amusing that one thing changed so little yet remains just as funny. You seem to be in a dark place. Are you all right? Fine, just bad memories. 1,000 years brings both good and bad if you can believe it, she beams. You know if you ever need to talk. Nerdu plants a kiss on her cheek. Thanks. He glances at the board and frowns. June is right, there's a lot of work here, and not all of it is good work. Well, at least we have enough to make a choice, he replies with a smile. When I started my training, I used an alias to avoid people I didn't want to see until I was ready. I think it might be a good idea to use it again. Are you serious? What was that? Barudusuperaro blood spiral. It feels somewhat grim, he acknowledges. Indeed, it was a grim period. My initial training site was in the midst of a civil war that had started before my birth. I selected it because I would be shedding blood, and I took pride in being an Uzumaki. She smiles and nods. And what about me? Een name der bij Danen Feinden Furch Einfulte on von Denen die du best zijn wilst, Ihnen Zugefkeit word Kurimisen no Akumu, the Crimson Nightmare. Ich habe der Tatsächlich ein Geschenk mitgebracht. Nerdu reet ein Mask, die Kakasches ähnlich ist, Jidduch Blutrut Gefrut und mit goldenen Rosenranken bestickt. She holds the object in her hands and beams. It's beautiful and terrifying simultaneously. He agrees it's something my mother would admire. Done it with pride except when we're by ourselves. Its purpose is to instill fear and conceal our identities from those who are familiar with us. Like Azula or May, she responds. She places the mask on her face, and he presents a mirror to her. She inhales sharply at the sight before her. It's a seal I added to the mask. It alters nothing, just an illusion. What's your opinion? Now she possesses golden eyes resembling those of a cat, along with blood-red hair styled in twin tails filled with senbon. Like a crimson rose beautiful, he smirks. I crafted that illusion based on a few of my friends. The hair color is my sister Karen's, the ponytails belong to the 5th headmaster, the senbon was inspired by Hako, and the eyes are a blend of Yujito Nai's and my own Shinjugen. To anyone unfamiliar with it, Your voice will also sound different. Did you place one on your mask? He nods and raises his mask. His appearance changes little aside from his hair and eyes. His eyes turn crimson and become slitted think cubey, while his hair sweeps back into spikes that resemble a dragon's head. Additionally, his mask features 3 lines on each cheek that look like a fox's whiskers. Cool. June approaches them from behind and affirms with a nod, I concur, it's a nice look. To which they reply thanks. She then asks, have you two chosen a job yet? He nods. Tracking down and capturing a serial rapist is worthwhile. He's been active for some time and has recently targeted a nobleman's daughter, making the bounty worth the effort. Plus, I despise rapists more than I do bullies. Dead or alive. J. Aber alive bringt die Doppelt Belohnung ein und ist ein Guerrier Herausforderung das Geflot mir. O Erdem kann Teile die Erfahrung gebruchen. Oder soll ich sei Kuramuson no Akumen nennen? June whistles in appreciation. Nice name, but why the aliases? Taylor has some well-known friends. We would prefer not to find her until she is prepared on the run. Taylor shakes her head. Not really, just avoiding them until I'm more confident in myself. So bossy friends who think they know what's best or want to drag you into something you dislike, I can respect that. I'll keep your secret. Thanks, June. She waves it off. Mind if I join you? Ich bin neugierig auf euch zwei und red gern sehen, wie arbeitet. Taylor seit Nerdu und nickt. Klar, antwortet As they leave the bar, Nerdo spots an animal he's never encountered before. Ah, that's Nyla. She's a Shirshu blind, but they can see through smells. They can locate anyone as long as they know the scent. Shirshus are loyal and fierce to those they don't recognize. Their tongues have poison barbs that contain a paralytic. I got her a few years back from a rare animal collector for a bounty. Afterward, I skinned him and released his animals. Ever since then, Nila has been a dear friend, Nerdu says with a smile as he approaches her directly, causing June to nearly panic until Nila merely rubs her head against his hand and whimpers. Wow, that's a first. Every animal knows a friend and an alfaf to her. I'm family and a sibling just like you, mistress and sister. June grins and climbs onto her. Do you all have a ride? Nerdu looks at Tali, who jiggles in response. Kurimizun no akumuke, she says. Tile then nods and raises a hand to make a ram sign. Release it. When she deactivates her resistance seals, she feels lighter than ever before. Turning to June, she grins beneath her mask, keep up if you can. She dashes through the trees with such speed that it astonishes June. Nerdo chuckles. You get used to things like that around me. He runs after Tylee, while June smiles in anticipation of what's to come. After a few days of tracking their target, they established a camp. While Tylee and June discussed their past, Nerdo was apart from them. Suddenly, they heard an explosion and rushed to investigate its origin. Upon arriving at the explosion site, they discovered Nerdo sitting in a small smoking crater with a burned hand, mumbling about messed up control, idiotic comets, and fire-sucking jerks. Nerdo, are you okay? He glances at them, scowls, and then heals his hand, prompting June to raise an eyebrow. Apologies, yeah. I'm just experimenting a bit, but the one I want most is tough without control and it's frustrating me. I've seen some of your spirit art, but nothing that inflicts damage like this. He nods. It's one of my father's creations. He designed it based on the tailed beast bomb. Do you remember when I mentioned that to you? She nods. Abu's most powerful attack can wipe out a city in an instant. Yeah, the wind ball is a smaller version, he says, casting an illusion to show them an image of the legendary Sanin demonstrating the attack as a child. June asks him if that was his father, and he laughs. Thank Kimi, no. That was the legendary Sanin. He was Dad's teacher and later mine too. He's also my no-good, super perverted godfather. Tilly frowns and sits next to him. You've told me about him, but never with that kind of anger in your voice. What do you mean by no good? With a tear in his eye, he gazes at her and sighs, "I guess it's time I told you about my childhood, isn't it? Should I leave him?" "This seems a bit private," he says, shaking his head. "It's fine, you might not believe what I have to say anyway. Best sit down, it's a long and unhappy story." He starts recounting the history of Shinobi up until his own birth, including the origins of core energy and the Bidyu. Shinobi were tools of the village, serving the whims of our Kage, who was meant to serve the people. We were weapons, me more than most, but the people didn't understand that. My father wanted me to be seen as a hero, but instead I was viewed as a monster, a demon in human form, the Kyuubi. I was born on the same day it attacked the village. You see, my parents died sealing it, and the headmaster told them the beast was sealed away by the fourth, but as much as they revered him, they believed a child's mind could not hold such a demon at bay, and so to them I was the demon. I lived as an orphan for the first 4 years, being abused by the matrons and the other children, though they didn't know why. The law forbade anybody telling the children of me under pain of death. Because of who my father was, I wasn't to know who my parents were either, for fear his enemies might target me. If you think that's bad, it gets worse. He casts a Gen spirit art to depict his life. At 4 years old, they threw me out onto the street. They said if a demon can walk and talk, he can live on his own. I spent another 4 years eating garbage until the Ichirikas found me. Tucci and Iam were kind to me when others weren't. She bathed me and treated me like a brother, while Tucci treated me like a son. For years, I ate at their little shack. They were my first precious people. I didn't realize that my eating there was driving away their other customers and putting them in debt. At the age of 12, they were approached by a crowd offering to pay off their debts and keep them in business if they helped drug me. They agreed based on the understanding that I wouldn't be hurt more than a few bruises and scrapes. Although Iam was unaware, I was taken to a dark room, strapped to a table, and stripped. When I woke up, they started torturing me with poison, burns, cuts, and even acid for hours. Whenever I passed out, they let me heal with the demon's help before starting again when I woke up. They only tried to kill me after they had enough, but by then the Enbu had arrived and killed them. Later I discovered that Iam was the one who had sent them. By then it was too late. I forgave them eventually, but my trust was gone for good. I stopped eating ramen altogether. Turns out that was a good thing, since it was keeping me a shrimp. During my time at the academy, I remained the happy idiot. Most of my friends betrayed me and caused me pain or trouble. Gradually, I became cold. Although I still felt things, I distanced myself and showed nothing. This intimidated many people, and it worked well for me. After graduation, I learned why they hated me. I found out about the Kyuubi sealed within me. Despite everything, I still held on to some hope, albeit for a few. That changed after the training ninja exams, when Orochimaru was revealed as a criminal from the Leaf who broke in to target Naruto's friend. He placed a 5 elements seal on me to disrupt my core energy, but he messed up. It gave the Shinyu enough time to seize its power and awaken within me. After the second phase, the first thing he did was tell me about my parents. I was furious that day, and everyone knew it. Kakashi had refused to train me, and the headmaster wouldn't tell me why he kept my parents' existence a secret from me. My only option for training was a perverted jonin who was more of a joke. I didn't know I would meet the legendary Sannin that day. Skipping to the finals, in the last round, Naruto's friend faced the Sand King, who was a Jinchuriki with a faulty seal driving him nearly insane. As soon as the fight got interesting, the invasion started. I pursued the Sand King with my team while the headmaster battled Orochimaru. I defeated the Sand King and changed his perspective on true power. He eventually became his village's Kage and a good friend of mine, but I wouldn't find out about this until years later. Meanwhile, the headmaster died fighting his pupil.